Welcome back to the workshop where we're talking and learning about how foods and lifestyle can affect development of anxieties. Today, we will go on part 2 of our workshop. And in part 2, we will go over the foods that can trigger anxiety. Then we'll talk a little bit more about sugar and how specifically sugar could be addictive and why sugar is triggering anxieties. And at the end, we'll talk a little bit more in detail about gut health. Very, very broad topic and very important topic. So if you have anxiety, it is very, very important, extremely important to look into your diet and diet of your family. Dietary food choices that can cause inflammation and trigger of any chronic health issues, and that includes also mental health issues and anxiety. Could be anything similar like any standard Western diet, which is overloaded with lots of processed foods, because in those processed foods, there's lots of chemicals, additives, sugars, processed oils, all together that could be represented here in foods like pizzas, breads, donuts, fried chickens, lollies, hamburgers, hot dogs, lots of baking treats that you can buy in the supermarkets and in other takeaway places. So in short, we can define those foods which are very inflammatory for our bodies as a junk foods. These foods are very inflammatory for our body because they are lacking in prebiotic fibers and phytonutrients that we usually find in the vegetables and fruits, which are actually food sources for our microbiome, which resides in our gut and which needs to be fed to be providing proper digestion and proper production of our immune system and production of our neurotransmitters and hormones. So if they are reduced in numbers in our microbiome, our gut is not going to function well, and it can cause inflammation and actually before that triggering of our immune system. Therefore, that can also have a negative effect on our mood and anxiety, because as you remember that I mentioned in part 1, there is a connection between our gut health and our brain, which can trigger difference in different moods and can trigger any other mental health issues. So we can say with a fact that is definite that chronic systemic inflammation in the body, in our bodies, are underlying factors of our mental health issues, including anxiety. So let's look which are those nutritional factors that may trigger anxiety. It could be anything from sugars found in processed foods, artificial flavoring, processed vegetable oils, pesticides, convenient meat products, caffeine, alcohol, and many others. So sugars are really inflammatory when we eat too much sugar, and we're not talking here only about processed white crystalline sugar. We're talking about any simple carbohydrates, what could be any grain, wheat products, white green products, white rice, white pastas, and many stuff like that, because they are very easily transformed in our body to simple sugars. And when you eat lots of these simple sugars, our body can't process them enough, and our body as a have a mechanism to during that inflammatory reaction cause to increase when we eating increased amount of sugars and other toxins to produce chemicals which are known as cytokines, pro-inflammatory messenger cytokines, and it has been shown by research that those cytokines can cause many neurological and physical symptoms, including anxiety. So anything that triggers inflammation, anxiety, such as allergens, inflammatory foods, chemicals can cause and aggravate also anxiety. So processed foods are not only, as I said, high in sugars, but usually they are high in other anti-anxiety triggers like processed vegetables and artificial flavoring, gluten and additives, etc., etc. So gluten and grains, protein found in a variety of grains is usually in today days very problematic for many people. Many people are allergic or sensitive on gluten, but because gluten tend to produce lots of inflammation in the body, pain and health issues, and many chronic health issues, including anxiety. Artificial flavorings designed to enhance flavors, texture, color, and extend the life shelf of the packaged foods. So we need to be careful when we are going for shopping and look on those ingredients and see how much what those preservatives, additives like monosodium glutamate, artificial coloring, fructose, corn syrup, etc. is added in our food, because they are all triggering inflammation in our body, so can trigger anxiety also. Processed vegetable oils could be anything from corn oil, canola oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, all those oils, cotton oil, peanut oil. It's very high in pro-inflammatory omega-3 fatty acids, so they will increase definitely inflammation and then therefore can increase. They can trigger anxiety. Conventional meat products. I said conventional meat products here because meaning conventional production versus grass-fed meat products have a big difference, because commercially grown cattle are loaded with hormones and antibiotics, which helps them increase amount of meat that each of them can give in the processing of the food, which again, when we consume those kind of meats, we also loading our body with those antibiotics and with any additives that they are given to those cattle. And those cattle usually are fed with grains and corn and stuff like that instead of grass. GMOs and glyphosides affect nutritional quality of the food we eat, because those pesticides and glyphosides, GMOs are there and used there to spray, actually to kill. They're used to spray to kill weeds by targeting enzymes that produce the amino acids tryptophan, tyrosine, and phenylalanine. So definitely, when any crop that is used for food production is sprayed with this, it would be transferred in a chain process, nutritional chain process in our body, and it can affect our neurotransmitters, and therefore cause also mood changes and anxieties. Too much coughing. Also, some people can't really process and digest coughing very well and coffees very well, so they can get jitters and triggers because of increased production of stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. That same comes going not only in coffee but in any sodas and energy drinks. So in addition with sugar in those drinks, we have a coughing, so that can cause lots of imbalance in neurotransmitters and hormones in our body, which again can, if it's prolonged period use of those drinks, it can lead to development of anxiety. Alcohol also, regular drinking interferes with neurotransmitter production and neurotransmitters in our brain, so that are needed and required for good health. So if alcohol definitely can deplete our body of many nutrients also, and alcohol is also loaded with sugars. So again, another very good cause of trigger of anxiety. So let's go and see specifically sugars, how sugar is connected really with the development of depression and anxiety. So sugar, like any refined junk food, can be addictive, same as alcohol or smoking, and those kind of addiction are mostly associated with increased risk of anxiety, depression, weight gain, and substance abuse. And one of the most common findings in individuals suffering from anxiety is poor sugar-blood balance, because if your diet is high in refined sugars and processed carbohydrates and low in the vegetables and fruit and healthy fats and healthy protein, that's setting definitely up our body for that sugar imbalance. So because when we are eating a quick high carb snacks or sugar loaded snack or a meal, that meal may feel really satisfactory, emotionally satisfaction, and give us a burst of energy in that moment when you eat it. But after half an hour, you will definitely feel that that will lead to sudden blood sugar drop, and you will feel fatigue and brain fog. That's why when people eating carbohydrate loaded meal, they will feel after half an hour tired, hungry again, angry, mood will change. And those kind of foods, if you keep going and eating meals loaded with carbohydrates without protein and good fats, it will cause over the time triggering of the anxiety and mood swings and changes. So those individuals with anxiety tend to oversecrete insulin, causing low blood sugars or reactive hypoglycemia. And this puts lots of stress on adrenal glands, which produce stress hormone. Cortisol keep blood sugar stable. So blood sugar imbalance, especially hypoglycemia, can increase oxidative stress, inflammation, lead to leaky gut brain, and compromise your brain health. So causing irritability, mood fluctuations, and anxiety, and any cravings. So when we have low blood, so I would go on this next one, that in many cases, I would say underlying cause of addiction to sugar is because of our brain chemistry, neurotransmitter imbalance that have started because inflamed gastrointestinal system and leaky gut. So people usually beat themselves up for eating sugar and sugary foods and don't understand why they are unable to stop. But this is usually not because they are very weak or failure, but because their brain and gut chemistry that dictating really that cravings for sugar and processed fatty foods, and that's how people put on lots of weight also, and or that triggers any chronic health issues like anxiety. For example, how is that affecting neurotransmitter imbalance? For example, if you have low GABA levels of neurotransmitters, craving sugar, you will crave sugar to relieve stress and anxiety. If you have low serotonin, you will crave sugar to trying to improve your mood. If you have low adrenaline or adrenaline, you have sugar to increase energy. If you have low happy hormones, dopamine, oxytocin, you crave sugar to comfort yourself. So that's how sugar have really addictive. That's why sugar have a very addictive nature, and that's why sugar can trigger anxieties. So let's go on the next topic, and last topic in this part, about is gut health. And our gut health, it's extremely important. It's really wide topic, and I really try to squeeze this in a short amount of time to give you a good picture how gut is important for your health, how gut is important for any chronic diseases, including anxieties and other mental health issues that is possibly triggered in you. Some fun facts about your gut is that your gut lands, so your gut starts in your mouth. If you, for somebody of you who don't know, your gastrointestinal system starts in your mouth when you intake your food and ends up in your rectum, and length of your gut is 8.5 meters. And gut surface, if we manage to flatten out our gut, surface of the gut would be 6 double bed sheets, just giving you for comparison and an interesting fact. So your gut literally affects everything in your body, including your brain and your mood, because as you remember, I mentioned that there is that gut-brain has connection, and that's why gut health and gut inflammation can also influence our brain and influence our moods. One way that our gut is connected to our brain is through vagus nerves. Many of you might have heard about vagus nerves. Vagus nerve begins in our brain stem at the back of the head and end up in our gut, in our bowel, which stimulates also bowel motility and produces neurotransmitters like serotonin in the gut. Another most vital part of our gut and gut health is your gut bacterial community microbiome, and that's another way how our gut and brain communicates. Our gut microbiome is the collection of or community of bacteria, viruses, fungus that help us digest our food, make vitamins, modulate our immune system, produce neurotransmitters, and have much more other functions. In our gut, you have about 10 trillion of these bacterial species that live in our body, but compared to only 1 trillion of human cells that make up our body. So basically, we can say that your microbiome makes up who you are. So you have that gut microbiome, you have that microbiome not only in your gut, you have it on your skin, you have it in your lungs, you have in other parts of your body. So what is the role of that microbiome? I already mentioned some of them, and the most important one, the communication with our cells, have the ability to shift our mood, hormones, and much more. So how much microorganism we have, we all affect health. Those microorganisms in our gut will affect our health, because 70% of our immune system resides in our gut. We rarely rely obviously on that, on our gut to keep us nourished, but also to keep us healthy and free of infection. We have millions and millions of these microbial species in our gut, but precise makeup of that this intestinal community, it's really different from one person to another. So you can we can definitely say that there's no two people who have the same microbiome community compared to one to each other. So we have, I have mentioned synthesis of neurotransmitters, synthesis of vitamins, fatty acid production, and many other functions. So microbiome patterns vary from person to person, as I mentioned, because of different environmental conditions, medication, infections, cleanliness. And so that's all affected microbiome health and balance of that microbiome community. So they are really easy influence through our lifestyle, habits, environment, nutrition, or food, what we eat. So when microbiome is imbalanced, this can lead to many adverse effects ranging from poor mental health, including anxieties and endocrine disorders, cancers, diabetes, many other chronic diseases. And many research has shown that changes in microbiome and imbalance in bacteria and inflammation in the gut causing neuroinflammation. So the chronic neuroinflammation is one possible cause of anxiety and depression, and reduces the brain ability to activate that front lobe, what is our executive center responsible for our mood regulation and taking actions on our thoughts and beliefs. So we know when we are depressed and anxious, we can be really low in the mood, and we are not really happy to do any everyday task, and we are not finding pleasure in doing any everyday task, anything what we usually have done in the past. So psychological factors can affect our gut and physiology, leading to inflammation and affecting movements of our gastrointestinal system. But on the other hand, also compromise gut flora, or that gut microbial community may compromise our mood, brain health, and trigger anxiety. So as a conclusion, I would say that finding the source of imbalance in our microbiome that are fueling inflammation also will help us discover underlying causes and a reduction of our anxieties. Another very important thing to know is that lining of our gut of our intestines is only one cell thick, so it's really, really fragile. And imagine that as a wall in the castle. In that castle wall, there is many gates and that is open and closes, and they're allowing the entry to the people who live there, but also forcing out any intruders. So these gates are actually opening when nutrients from the foods coming in, but also when toxins needs to go out, those gates would open. So bacteria from our gut protects the gut barrier and work to ensure that that cell wall junctions stay tight and healthy, instead of prevent increase intestinal permeability. So in case the intestinal lining loses integrity because of inflammation or because any of those effects that we already talked in part 1 and today, is you will have a picture on the your left-hand side, where you can see that those openings in our lining will be open much more, and that will allow and would be allowing any particles, pathogens like food particles and toxins to go through there and to go into our bloodstream, which obviously causing and triggering our immune system and inflammation. So every time any unwanted particles or pathogen enters bloodstream, our immune system will be triggered, at least the continuous and body-wide inflammation. And it has been proven by research, but I can't talk much more now because of timing, that leaky gut leads to leaky brain. So that's why we have inflammation in the gut, inflammation in the brain, leaky gut, leaky brain, so blood-brain barrier in the brain, allowing again toxins to go in the brain, causing many mental health issues like ADHD, anxieties, depression, behavioral changes, autism, etc., etc. So in summary, to conclude today's topic on how food can influence development of anxieties, it's very important to point out that eating processed food loaded with sugars, additives, chemicals will end up with increased inflammation in our body, which is underlying factor in development of anxieties and other chronic health issues in our body. So maintaining the healthy gut also we found out is really vital to keeping your brain healthy and your mood happy. I'm hoping that you learned lots in this short presentation about foods and gut today. And hopefully we will learn more in our next part 3, where we're going to see more information about how foods what we're eating actually can cause many mineral and vitamin deficiencies, and also triggering food allergies and food sensitivities. So see you next in part 3 of our workshop.